Good morning, Perpetua.
Good morning, Francis.
Good to have you again.
How are you?
Doing awesome, doing great and fine.
Great.
Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
To those who saw their results on Monday, happy Thursday regardless. 1.9 million people sat for an examination that the total score is 400, and 1.5 million people out of that 1.9 million people could not score up to 50% or 400%. They scored lesser than 200%. That's the story of the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination, JAM, this year. Results released on Monday. It wasn't fair. Parents felt scorned. Children cried. People smiled. Just a few of them. But the journey continues regardless. It's a story of examination malpractice, a story of malpractice going wrong, a story of a practice that was not well understood by those who were into that examination. I'm talking about the children.
I don't know if it's a problem of reading culture or if it was because of the time of the examination, because these are the two things that my mind kept going to when the results were released. I was thinking, okay, why would you as an organization know about the security challenges, the present security challenges in the country, and then you go ahead to put an exam to start by 6? It means that these kids are going to be on the road by 4:30.
6, 7 o'clock, that early. Yeah.
That early, 6, 7. To me, it was a no-no for me. And then they also the idea of reading culture came because I was talking with a brother of mine, and he said, away from the security, away from children getting there early. If you compare the reading culture of children these days to children 10 years ago, can you tell me, Perpetual, that it's same thing or there is a decline? And then I was speechless because, in truth, there has been a great decline in the reading culture of children. And I'm sorry to say, Francis, but it gets worse. It gets worse. I'm not sure that we are going to leave that problem anytime soon, the problem of reading culture. For someone to say, if you want to hide something from someone, put it in a book. It tells you how bad it has gone. Everybody is waiting for someone to do the thinking for him or her.
No,
And they put it under the culture of work smart, don't work hard. But you forget that there are some things that no matter how much I want to help you, only you can figure it out by yourself. And what you do is to seek guidance from people around.
Well, if you put it in a book, I would not see it. But if you put it in a phone, I'll probably see it personally. Because our gadgets are supposed to help things get easier. I remember
actually.
the last examination I sat for, I didn't stress myself carrying any book, any paper onto the examination hall. Instead, I left those books just close to my bed, and I just tossed the pages or fill the pages every now and then so I could browse or Google out the topics, and I'll read from several authors. So I had always envied the modern generation. I thought they were predisposed to loads of authors, loads of ideas. Instead, we find the ones who are even studious memorizing, otherwise called cramming. They don't try to understand what is being taught. Whereas when I was younger, I hated JAM for only one reason. It was more of objective questions. I love to express myself as an art-minded student. But it wasn't that cumbersome because the subjects were naturally my 4 best subjects. And that's how JAM operates. If you're a science student, those are your 4 best subjects. If you're an art student, those are perhaps your 4 best subjects, and social sciences too. But what went wrong in JAM examination is still loads for us to begin to unravel.
But
now,
Francis,
mind you that,
sorry to interrupt.
before you go on, mind you that these same students did very well in the WAEC and NECO examination.
They did, actually.
So that's the big question. What went wrong, really?
Actually, they did. And the problem is, you talked about students being predisposed to different authors because they have their mobile phone. That is true, but you would not also deny the fact that in as much as the phone is there for us to have access to information, get diverse views, ideas, so that we add up with our own and come up with something pretty creative. The phone is also an agent of distraction. One of the strongest, if not the strongest right now. If I want to get the mind of a child or a young person, all I need to do, someone that lacks discipline, because I've met few young people that their discipline is top notch. Their discipline is like that of 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds. But the normal, like a conventional young person, if you want to get their attention now, just distract them with the phone. they are supposed to be reading with their phone in actuality, because then in school, if you want to do an assignment, you browse with your phone, you get different views, you add all of them together, you come up with something really beautiful and productive. But right now, the distraction is too much. And the problem with the distraction is that if you're not disciplined enough, it will end up taking your willpower and end up controlling you. I think that's the bigger demon, if I may say, that we are faced with. The demon of not being disciplined enough to focus on what we are supposed to focus on, and then leave out the distraction. That's why someone said, starve your distraction, feed your focus. It's not just words, I'm telling you, it's becoming a problem in the society.
Well, the gadget should have been the gift and the curse, but it looks like at the end of the day, we have grabbed more of the curses that the gadgets have brought than the gifts that they have brought. Students did well during the WAEC examination, NECO examination, and they got A plus or A1, as they put it, in those 4 subjects that they entered during JAM. How is that possible that they could not score more than 200% in JAM examination? And people have attributed that. A former Minister of Education, Yusuf Sununu, one time said that all this is victory against examination malpractice, and he attributed the great success during WAEC, NECO, GCE examination to the growth of examination malpractice. And the JAM examination, which is so CPT driven, it's hard for anyone to find a way to rig the process, to cheat during the process, to have expo that's already fielded questions during the process. So it's kind of very, very tough for malpractice or assisted examination. That's what many private schools indulge in right now. On the surface, it looks very good. A child is writing the exam, and they are assisted. Hey, you could do this, you could do that, you could write this or that, write that. You're being told casually, Johnny, that's a wrong answer. You could do better. And Johnny says, thank you, teacher, in the examination hall. These are private schools that make a big name with the amount of A's their children have gotten during the end of the examination. They have accepted malpractice and assisted examination as a standard just to keep on winning people over. The next thought I have, Perpetua, is that why are these same Nigerian children who seemingly do poorly in Nigeria end up doing so well if they travel out of the shores of the country? Is it our examinations are too tough, or that our teachers are not following the guidelines properly, or they are in a rush to complete the syllabus? These are the questions. Or students themselves are quite quick to catch the trends and are sluggish to catch their syllabus. What is really going on with this generation?
I think you answered it. Francis. It's quite easy for children to learn with the trends than learn with the syllables. A teacher of mine complained one time in school that the syllables he used while he was small was what his younger one came to meet when his younger one was his age. It was a problem with changing the syllables.
Talk about a decade difference.
A decade difference with the evolving time. So it's a problem. But it's so amazing that if you use the trend, they would do better. Something that they can relate with. Do you get? They can even express themselves more if you ask them questions relating to that particular thing with the trend that they are used to.
I think we have to change our methodologies of teaching.
It's a lot.
Everything, there are lots of things that are wrong now. I used to always make this analogy that when our forefathers, let's say our great-great-great-grandparents started, the lazy ones were those who would not go to farm, who would rather hold their books. While the hardworking ones were the ones who went to farm, cleared, and the rest of them. And when that time transcended, the hardworking ones were those who would like their books. They would read hard, and then the other ones were the ones who would want to do something else. As time has continued evolving and things are changing, people are quicker to hold their phones or the computer while others are holding the book. So things are changing. Maybe we need to change our style, because even the style of teaching children is different from how it was back then.
Yes.
When many of us were supposedly studious. They teach them, they call it play learning.
Yes.
They play, and these children grow into adults who don't see play learning. Nobody's teaching them like Coco Melon and the rest of them. I don't know though. I just think that it's a lot. I'm not really the expert, but something has got to be done about the examination process. These are all hypotheses and theories and assumptions we are creating right here in the studio, because our interest is so hinged on how to change the entire system. If 1.94 million people wrote an examination, and half of them could not score up to 200
It's a
in their
problem.
examination. That's over 1.5 million people not scoring up to that amount of that the 200. Then we have a big problem that we should fight as a country. Because when it comes to a country declining, it's not just about politics or warfare. Education could change the entire system. But when we come back right here on Morning Right, we shall look at the papers and see what's trending or the biggest headlines this morning. Stay with us. Thursday's edition of the program Morning Bride, right here on Delta Television, the People's Bride. It's time for us to look at the papers. But before we do that, we're having a conversation that spurned from Monday, a conversation about the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, the examination precisely, and how children fared poorly. It wasn't fair, the results. I'm hurt. I'm concerned about the younger ones and the future of tomorrow. So before we do the papers this morning, we're going to change the style. We have the wonderful Bonnie Akezim, who I made a professor on Morning Right. I had to bestow on him that position. He declined it, but I've done my job right here as a
morning,
presenter.
sir.
Good morning, sir. Good to have you. Good to have you. Good to have you. Yes. Before we look at the papers, we have loads of them. Let's talk about what happened on Monday. Those results that were released and how it felt like. Like I said, 1.9 million people sat for examination. Children who should have studied from GSS 1 to SS 3, children who should have been familiar with those questions through revision and studies that they should have had. Children who had the privilege of attending extramural lessons, some of them had their parents employed teachers. Children who their parents paid money to see give them the best. 1.94 million of them wrote an examination, and 1.5 million children could not score up to 200. An examination that is the overall score is 400. I knew what I scored during the JAM examination. I knew how I had bragging rights among my peers. I knew how we were writing JAM at senior secondary 2 just to come to school to show our worth. Look at what I scored. I scored 200, I scored 230. You know, back then at SS2, I'm talking about not close to 2 decades ago. What has gone wrong so fastly? That's the question I'm posing to you, Onyake, before we start the paper review.
Okay. Of course, definitely a lot of factors will account for it. But let's look at it from this way. What is that is on we as persons who are participant observers in the Nigerian system. What is our honest assessment of our educational system? In Nigeria, everything is on the decline. It is, you see, this is what worries, because today now, this is May 2025. You know, we'll say it is a midterm for the administration at all levels, from state to federal to state level. You know, but you can see that the popular narrative now, conversation is just around politics, around 2027 election. You know, so we ask ourselves, people, when you gather people, if you have to have a public dialogue, people will agree. What you will hear is that the 90s, our standard in the 80s was better than in the 90s, and our standard in the 90s better than the first decade of the new millennium. The standards of today, the standard of the first decade of the first millennium, this new millennium, is better than the second decade and where we are today. So what does that tell you? It is we're in the decline. I was talking with somebody the other day. I saw there was this keke, this tricycle, keke, we call keke, popularly called keke. You know, a boy, he dropped off passengers and without looking carefully tried to reverse and, you know, clashed. Another keke coming, two keke coming, almost crashed into it, you know, and everybody's. And I was like, how did we even get here? That I remember in the 80s, we lived at Ibuza. We used to come to Asaba here for Children's Day, for different activities. It was this car they called Dasun. It was Dasun that was being used for public transport.
Yes.
From that time was like from this, we used to call it General Hospital. General Hospital to Zene Junction, we used to popularly call it traffic light, to Cable, you know. So if in the 80s we were using cars for public transport, Asaba had not become a state capital as of then. That now we're using motorcycle and tricycle as our means of local public transportation. Have we improved or have we declined? Look at our educational system. Go to our schools. All of a sudden, teaching profession has become almost exclusive preserve of women. You go to a school, you see 20 teachers, 16 are women. What does that tell you? That, of course, you can link it to our culture. What I mean, culture, trending thing within, our society. The man is the breadwinner of homes in our land. So teaching job is no longer attractive for breadwinners.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
the
That's part of the problem.
it is no longer, it's not a
Because of
job
the pay.
good enough for breadwinner, because it's not a job that can guarantee sustainable household income, disposable household income. So when you get to again, go to our faculty. Almost, of course, we are phased out. I attended teacher training college, St. Thomas's College, Ibuza. If you teacher training colleges, they are gone. Colleges of education, they are gone. Even faculty of education in the universities, they have to adopt strategies and this to be able to attract students. So it means we have no regard for teachers' education. The teaching profession produces every other profession. So who are our teachers in the school today? I know in our time, you don't only do study English language. You study English methodology. That's the method of teaching English language.
Preach.
Yes. So we take teaching method as a subject, stand-alone subject of its own. So that you are proficient in mathematics does not mean you will be able to impart mathematics knowledge as a teacher. So who are the people specially trained to teach in our schools? All the private schools that do big banner and post how their students got, their pupils got a distinction in all subjects. Who are the teachers? How many of them can have teachers? Let us go and do exams. How many of them have teachers that are registered under the Teachers Registration Council, that they are trained teachers? Who is regulating? Why is it that if you are not a lawyer called to bar, you cannot practice law as a profession? If you are not a certified accountant, you can't be regarded as a professional accountant. If you are not a doctor who's trained as MBBS and subscribed to the oath of Hippocrates, called to the medical profession, you cannot practice medicine.
Yes.
The same thing. Why is it different for the teaching profession? Why is it that every Tom, Dick, and Harry, if you have nothing else to do, just to be living home and at least having something to at the end of the day, you go and take up a teaching job, and you expect the students that you are. Do you teach? Can you impart the knowledge you don't have, or you don't even have the skill to impart? So there's a whole lot. There's a whole lot. One of my cousins said, those banner you see in the front of schools is just an invitation. Just come and enroll. Pay the fee, we will help you pass. It is as bad as that.
It's as bad. Well, let's talk about this.
So you see, we can say the children are distracted, the children are... But remember that we are talking about children. They are to be directed. They are to be nurtured. They are to be nurtured. So the children are just the output. The output is a function of an input. Whatever output you have,
garbage in, garbage
impact and outcome, they are primarily, first and foremost, the reflection, the result of an input. So these children that you are talking about, they are the failure rate here, you have read with them. It is our scorecard as a society. It is our scorecard as a nation. It is not those children that fail. It is our nation that
Well,
failed.
we're going to, well, this question is very
Yeah.
deep. I think it will take us a long time to,
Yeah.
to conclude. Now, let's talk about the focus on education in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. UNESCO recommends that at least 10-20% of your 10-15% of your budget be allocated to education in every country. As of 2025, our budget for education was 3.52 trillion naira. That was all we budgeted for education, which is 7.3% of that budget of 2025. Now the question is, it looks like Nigeria is not giving appropriate attention to education in Nigeria. Has this affected the entire system?
Okay. I've worked on in a World Bank project of what do they call it? Budget monitoring for social expenditure on the social sector. The project targeted, it was under the Niger Delta Citizens Budget Platform. So they were looking at trend in budgetary allocation and implementation on health and education sector. I think they later added what they call food sufficiency.
Okay.
And this when we were providing the template for the analysis, that was the area I worked. We provided the template for the analysis and trained the field people who want to track the reason in the field. And there's not only this argument, UNESCO,
Yes.
other things. And I said, those things don't really work. Yes, it's good to have a benchmark, for you to be able to, for the sake of creating a matrix for monitoring and evaluation. Definitely, there should be standardization. You should have some benchmarks for those things. But in reality, if my budget, if all of us, if I say, okay, I put 200 this thing in my every state, or let me say let us use the states, they're subnational. The level of investment that Delta State need to make in education may not be the same thing as the budget Zamfara State will need to make. Secondly, the budget size of Delta State may not be the budget size of Zamfara State. So yes, I agree, for the purpose of benchmarking, at least,
Yes.
we are talking of the lower limit, at least. But how in real terms, how much are you investing in education? Because the size, the ratio to size will determine who is really investing more. There is an amount that I will invest. Yes, I've met 20%, a benchmark of this thing. But compared to the ratio to this thing and to the problem we have to solve, I have not budgeted enough. But somebody who even had 15%, according to the ratio of the challenge they want to tackle and the budget side, may have even budgeted more. So it is issue of policy articulation and policy implementation. So you have to look at your own problem, what you want to address. What you want to address. That is why, even before you do budget, then you do what we call the expenditure framework and your fiscal strategy. So it is when it is the fiscal strategy paper and the expenditure framework that speaks to the appropriation. So that is what speaks to the appropriation. If you don't get your expenditure framework right and your fiscal strategy right, doing budget will just be doing annual ritual. Just have a document and So the issue is our educational system. In fact, our social sector spending. We need to rethink our social sector spending. We seem to we seem to be focused so much more. There's this conversation, the political economic conversation that goes that the expenditure now is more on capital expenditure than recurrent. And some people are saying there's an anti-corruption network I follow. They are saying that governments in Africa, not just in Nigeria, that they tend to focus on capital expenditure because that is where money could be siphoned, can easily be siphoned from heavy flyovers, heavy projects, heavy, but that issue of recurrent expenditure that are easier to track, and that is why they are not attractive. So you will come to a school. I watched one of the reports where they said, I don't know, I can't put the state now. And you go to the school, you see some building that they are not using them. The population of the students, is low, but there are some big projects, build buildings and but the teachers don't even have good offices, teaching environment. Even the chairs in the schools are not, and the teachers are not even trained and retrained. Professional improvement programs. Some other things that there are no even incentive. Welfare of teachers is nothing to write home about. But see, William Shakespeare, we know. The society where he lived in, they didn't have state-of-the-art school facilities as we are today. But he is the reference. So even genius can thrive in a hut. I am not de-emphasizing the issue of good school buildings and all that. But if you build air-conditioned equipped school building, if those who deliver the contents are not there, they don't have the high morale, they are not taken care of, you are going to get poor outcome. You are going to, so the teachers themselves, look at the quality of education in Nigeria in the 70s, in the 80s, some of the people who taught us in secondary school, they were not even university degree holders. That's right. Some of the people who taught in secondary schools, maybe highest, there are some people who did very well in their school set. They were recruited to teach in the secondary school.
Teacher training college.
And the people who went to teacher training were people who had the advanced level, And I could remember one of the guys who taught us agric. One Mr. Austin. That is, he's so simplified.
Yes, I had that kind of teacher.
He's so simple. I remember one Mr. Iwundu that taught us mathematics. All of a sudden, everybody, became good in mathematics just because of a particular teacher.
I had the privilege of having this teacher who we were sure didn't go to the university. Agricultural science teacher. Her name, I think Iloba or something. She taught us agricultural science and would tell us with so much effrontery, don't bother reading. Don't bother reading. Just come to class. And guess what? During WAEC, the least result will be a C. That was how good she taught. Don't bother reading. Just listen to me and go.
So we had wonderful teachers. Some of these people were NCE.
Yes.
Some of them were teachers had at their advanced levels. Some were, so. But it was about the stuff they were made of. And when I look back, I look at many of those my teachers. It's like teaching. They were in transition. Some of them later went to university, became university lecturers. Some went, So you saw that they were high flyers. That the teaching profession accommodated, was conducive to attract, good good stuff in terms of capacity. But it's like today, it is a dumping ground for those who does not have any other place, who cannot compete in any other place, and so you can't. Of course, the like I said, the outcome we're seeing is a result, is a reflection of the input, our input into the system. The system is giving out to us what we fed into it. So it is not those children that fail. It is our nation that fail.
So
it is a wake-up call. We should, we should rise up to the challenge.
so should
And that worse, why it is painful, is that education affects every other sector. Most, with the proliferation of private universities, I can tell you that a greater percentage of these children that failed JAMB will find their way into the university. So they are carrying that deficiency
On.
They will carry that deficiency on.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, by the time they will turn out, most of them would have become, quote unquote, poorly trained professionals. And you will see their impact in our economy.
So should our method of teaching change? Like the current method of teaching, should it change, or is it now obsolete as regards children development?
You see, in every profession, every profession is dynamic. So there is no reason, there is no way teaching methods will not evolve. In our time, we didn't learn through digitalization.
Yes.
There were no computers. Today, we're not just talking. We're not even talking of computers. We're talking of AI and machine learning. So methods will change, approaches will change. So what I am calling on the government of Nigeria, from federal to the highest level, to return teachers' education. To return teachers' education. Set up, have a program targeted at teachers' education. If possible, make scholarship schemes available. Give ourselves targets that between this we are going to train this number of teachers in the technical psychomotive field, teachers, all the domains of learning. Target the level of teachers. Have the level. We have a manpower board. Our manpower board should be able to have a plan that within this is the type of manpower we should have in Nigeria. The skilled manpower equipped with this kind of capacity to fit in.
program Morning Right, and we are having a conversation with our paper reviewer. Before we look at any of the papers, we should talk about what's more important to me, and that is education. Remember we said Monday we had results released, and many people went home crying. 1.94 billion people sat on examination, and 1.5 billion of those who sat on examination could not score up to half percent of the number of the figures needed to succeed on the examination. Well, right here in the house is our paper reviewer who will talk about this, and we've been talking about the issue deeply upon Yakeze. It's good to still have you right here with us. Let's continue that conversation just shortly, and then we'll wrap it up. Jam has hit hard, you know. People are crying. People are having different points, are reacting differently to this. But then there's a bigger picture. Part of success lies deeply in failure. The richest men in the world, the best entrepreneurs, are those who are able to fail. And we have found a system that has taught children only to pass examinations. In fact, at some point a decade ago, when children do not do well in examination, the cutoff marks will be reduced during that set. Now, this question hits different areas. Should the cutoff mark be reduced? What is the sense in doing that? Are children now left to have that mentality of only passing examination? What's the reality of failure for a Nigerian student? And how are we growing as a nation? How will we grow as a nation in all of this?
Okay. Yes, you can't blame the children from having passion for passing examination. Let me use the game of football. It is not the, they would always show statistics, shot at goal, number of corner kicks, number of this or that. Those things at the end of the day is not what matters. The greatest statistics the teams look to is score line. It is the score line. How many go? Ernest Okonkwo of the blessed memory, the football sports commentator, he said, in the game of football, at the end of the day, the only thing you go home with how many goals. The big news is how many goals, not how many shots at with the number, So that is, but again, yes, when you prepare for an examination, you wish to pass.
Yes, you do.
Because it is what do you call it? Examination is a kind of
Test of knowledge.
that is evaluation.
Yeah.
Measurement, we call it measurement and evaluation. It's a kind of measurement and evaluation to know how you are faring in your study. Because teaching is, there is an authority, the person who knows. There is the one who has been, that's a learner, who has been brought to learn. So when you impart, how you text your input, whether it is having the right output, impact, and outcome, is that you have to assess the student you have taught. Then when you talk about failure, yes, I told you I'm a trained teacher. Because of the kind of background I came from, the kind of training I had, I cannot, if you see the people I taught, other big guys, I cannot remember flogging any child for failing to answer my questions.
Whoa.
I cannot remember. Because I was taught that the failing a question is not a crime. The person doesn't know it.
Okay.
So, and I was taught that there's a failure rate in your class, then you are the teacher who will be the one to take responsibility. You are the one who has failed. That was what we were taught. So, and we taught at the level of, I taught at the level of primary school. So we were taught that after the general, you should also be able to separate your pupils and attend to their individual needs. So you don't just lump all of them because they are not of the same learning capacity. They are flyers, they are crawlers, they are, so as we grade them. So And that is why a class is supposed, at primary school, it's not supposed to be more than 15 pupils in a class, so that you'll be able to attend.
15 people.
Yes. So first of all, that is so if you check our school system, we are even failing. First of all, we are not complying with the carrying capacity. Well, when you have to, how can one teacher be teaching over 50 people? Here in some classes, they are even up to 100. So how are you going to do? In secondary school, it's supposed to be 30, 35. In our time, we used to be 30, 35 in a class. You know, so the issue of carrying capacity is there. The learning cannot be effective when that carrying capacity has been compromised, because there is supposed to be a ratio of learners to teachers. So that one. Then you talk about the infrastructure in the school, the tools for teaching and learning. So like I said, we need to return to our policy table to refer. In Delta State, one of the things I will praise the immediate past governor of Delta State for, Dr. Okowa, was that initiative to bring back technical colleges, to prioritize technical education. Man, it is a good way, it's the right way to go. Like as we are talking about, the people should learn skill, people should learn trades. Technical colleges is like before we went off before. I said I reflect. I saw my people who attended technical colleges. You can see how all of them turned out. You know, you can see how they turned out professionally. You know, so it is a good way to go. We need to bring back our technical colleges, bring back teachers training. You can call it maybe at teacher training that will go straight to the NCE level, but let it be prioritized. And let it be made compulsory that anybody who must teach must be a certified teacher. You must go, and if you didn't study education, you must do a program for you, maybe a 9 months program or this thing, for you to learn teaching methods. For you to it should be made compulsory. You cannot practice teaching as a vocation without being a professional, being trained, being certified.
Okay.
If you must have your teachers registration council, listen, to qualify to practice in that sector.
Mr. Bonny, this conversation can be on for a full day. I have many things I'm bothered about and I love you. And you seem to this
my
is clearly your field.
Yes, let us not so much blame the children. We failed the children. We failed the children. It's our nation that failed.
All right, before we say goodbye to you, because we have spent our time talking about our children,
Yes.
Rebecca and I were going to reel out 3 headlines from 3 papers.
Okay.
And you analyze them, those 3 of them, and then we'll say goodbye to you. Because it has been a very wonderful time. But let's look at our papers now. First, we have the Vanguard newspaper, and I'll bring out the biggest headline there. The Vanguard newspaper says, terrorists, superior weapons. Federal government folds reps, differs with Senate over security summit. That's the big headline on the Vanguard newspaper. It says, terrorists, superior weapons. Federal government folds reps, differs with Senate over security summit. The writer says, equip local volunteers to confront Boko Haram. Ndube tells federal government and the military. Another writer says, police recover large cache of ammunition in Jos. We have another writer says unpredictable tactics helping terrorists. We have more writers to this story. One says here, FG adopts new strategy in war against terrorism. This is coming from the NSA. And the final writer says, urges media to deny terrorists, bandits publicity. This story is on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. Like I said, it's going to be a different style of paper review today. We'll get back to the studio and we'll hear from Boniya Keze before we read out the other headline. So, here we go. Federal government faults reps, differs with Senate over security summits. They say that terrorists have superior weapons.
Well, you see, the rep and the executive arm of the legislature and the executive arm, they are integral part of one government. So it is not about your word against my word. It's not about, it is the rep. It's about coming to that table. We have the Office of National Security Advisor. You should be able to meet with the National Assembly's Committee on Internal Security, both the Senate and the district. And through dialogue, everybody will share information that they will know, they will be able to establish what are the facts. These are the kind of things, the kind of cross-fertilization of ideas that is required. Of course, you can't continue to do the same thing and accept a different result. So, as the insurgents and the bandits and the criminals persist, it means the approach we've been using to tackle them has not yielded our desired result. So we rejig our approach. So that is what it is. It's not about trading words. They should meet and look at this thing holistically and adopt new strategy. Yes, I agree that perhaps the thing requires new strategy because the strategy we have been using doesn't seem to have attended to the matter.
All right, looking at the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, the screaming headline here says, "One party state, Jonathan warns against backdoor manipulation." Another headline here says, LP crisis, Abure-led NWC suspends OT, Kingibe, Nwokocha, and others.
Okay, let's look at this. Which of the headlines should we look at? The one party, Jonathan won against the backdoor manipulations, or the LP crisis? Look at the manipulation.
Yeah, Jonathan is the former president of the country. You should have concern for what is happening. But I have always said on this when it comes to political matters here, I said our politics is evolving. You know, my concern in Nigeria is that it seems to me that what matters to politicians is how to the next public office. You know, those who have not gotten want to get in. Those who have gotten to there want to make sure that they don't lose their seats. I think by that way we're not going to build a viral democracy. In some clients, where we call advanced societies, you know, people have attachment to political parties for ideological reasons, because this is what this party believes in, and I believe that their view about how society should be run is the right view. But in our climate, that doesn't seem to exist. I think the ideology that exists is get into office, enjoy the what comes from, you know, what is the benefits associated to the office. So I think well, you know that we used to say that in political economy we said that progress is driven, that conflicts are the dynamics of progress, because it is the interaction of opposites that creates new syntaxes that will keep the wheel of society going. So by the time after the 2027 election, we've gotten an outcome. Our nation, even including the electorates, as they are going to the poll, to me, I think what we should be doing in Nigeria to find a way that we should be having different elections. Because the more people go to the poll, the more they have electoral education. Political education especially has got to do with electoral participation.
All right.
So that from time to time as we go, people will learn. People will learn.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's look at the final paper this morning. We have many papers, we're doing just 3 of them. I will go to Daily Trust newspaper. Daily Trust newspaper. The headline there, the biggest headline on Daily Trust is still on one-party states, then just for Nigeria, coming from Jonathan. But we'll look at another headline instead on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. And this one says, IGP sets up special police units for elite protection. IGP sets special police units for elite protection. Just in 2 sentences that they will say.
We have said the analysis have said that the population of citizens to our policemen is low. So if you now prioritize the protection of elites, what happened to the commoners? So I think it is an issue where our policing and security of citizens policy of the federal government should be, because the federal government controls the police force as an organization. And I think that the elites, they are the ones who are better disposed in terms of income. I think we should be emphasizing for private security services for elites. Go and pay. You pay, you get the services of private security outfits. Let the official police force establishment do the protection of life and property generally for Nigerians. So if you think that you have a special, you want to have your own personal VIP security, you pay for it.
I think that'll be a good way. I think who knows
You pay for it, so that even the private guard sector of our security will also be open up for employment for persons.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been a brilliant time. We looked at the Joint Admission Matriculation Board Monday release of examination results. We looked at that one for over 40 minutes, and then we looked at the papers, 3 of them this morning. Thank you so much. It's been a delight.
Thank you.
Very informative. The wonderful Bonnie Akeze, who I have bestowed the title of professor on Thursday's morning ride. He shall be back next week on Morning Ride, so be part of it, but more continues right here on Morning Ride. When we come back, we shall look at something also professional and how it's going to be right here in Delta State. It's a time for us to scream hooray. Professionals are gathering, and perhaps they shall have one family very soon. But we find out all that just after we return on Morning Ride. So stay with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Delta State is set for a media revolution. Delta Broadcast Media Organization, in conjunction with the Delta State Ministry of Information, presents Delta Broadcast Media Conference 2025. Theme: Broadcast Media, the pathway to unlocking Delta's possibilities. Date: 16th of May 2025. Venue: Unity Hall, Government House, Asaba. Time: 10 a.m. Guest speakers: Rufai Oseni, Maokwe Ogun, Yusuf, Samuel Fejoku, Peter Moche. There'll be high-level panel discussions with seasoned experts in the broadcast media industry. Special guest of honor, His Excellency, Right Honorable Sheriff Oborewori, Governor of Delta State. Guest of honor, Charles Anyagu, Commissioner for Works, Rural Roads and Public Information, Delta State. Convener, Ruki Onoro. For inquiries, call 0706-083-8949 or 0706-701-8400. Delta Broadcast Media Conference 2025, powered by Delta State Government and Chrysler Development Limited. Supported by DBS, NTA, Trend FM, Rise FM, Mega FM, Crown and Coco FM, Eku FM, Quest FM and TV, Sleek FM, Bridge Radio, NMDPRA, Olili Food and Dominion Pearl Home.
The program Morning Ride, right here on Delta Television. We are the People's Ride. One of the biggest things that happens in the world is broadcasting. I'll tell you that not because I'm part of it, but because I've seen how it has touched lives. Right here in Delta State, we are trying to really hold our own, to show our worth. And trust me, we have many people who are great in the world of broadcasting. Well, one man decided to take this to another level and decided to say, you come around, all you great broadcasters, let's come together for something very special. I'm talking about the Delta Broadcast Media Conference, which is coming up very shortly. Very, very shortly. We have 9 days to go, or 8 days to go, although correct me if I'm wrong. I have two gentlemen in the studio. One, the convener of this beautiful program, another, a veteran, and who has guided us even through this beautiful program. I'm talking about Morning Ride and every other thing you see on Delta Television. Two great men. I'll be stunned talking to one of them and friendly with the other one. I'm talking about Sammy Fejoku, veteran, mentor, broadcasting. And so I'll get queries if I don't do this particular show very well. So I'm going to put on my A game and be accessed later on. Yeah. Sammy Fejoku, the real satisfaction. It's good to have you right here.
Good morning.
Good morning, right. Welcome back home.
Always nice to be here. Thanks for having us.
And then the convener himself, the man who decided to bring all of us together as one family of broadcasters, Rookie Honoro, broadcaster for excellence, bridge radio presenter, and the man who calls himself the Isaac Prince. It's good to have you right here. Welcome to Morning Right.
Welcome, Rookie.
You see, I had a handshake with the Isaac Prince, but I was scared of having a handshake with a veteran. So it made it good. So it's a great thing. The Delta Broadcast Media Conference is not a fairy tale. It's a reality. And it's coming up right here in Delta State. This man is guilty as charged as far as putting the program up is concerned. And the other man, the veteran here, has been guided to. Two of them are right here in the studio. First, who would I ask the question first?
Let me start off.
Okay, let's get to you now.
I'm inspired to start off.
All right. Let's
First, you'll excuse my voice, though.
Yes.
You know, we're in the voice business, so
Yes.
we try as much as possible to ensure that we keep very healthy. You know, I started having this flu yesterday, but I didn't want to leave Rookie here alone.
Yeah, that's good.
That's why I decided to
You've never left us alone, have you?
appear with it. The last time he was here, he was actually here alone. I said, today, no. Now, Rookie actually dreamt this whole thing. It was his brainchild, everything, you know. I'm sure it's possible that one or two persons in the industry would also have been thinking along the same line, but I've not been able to actually come out.
Together, yeah.
But he did come out. And when he came out, he approached me, maybe because of what I represent in the industry. And when he, you know, laid his cards on the table, I checked them out, and I bought it wholesale, that this is what we have been, you know, looking for. A convergence of like minds, industry stakeholders, not just OAPs. You know, OAPs are those that people get to see their faces, listen to their voices and all that, their household names, you know. But every person who has one or two things to do in the mainstream broadcast industry, from the cameraman that you do not get to see, to the presentation director, the reporter, the news editor, everyone, even as far as the driver and the security man at the gate and all that. So this is for everyone to come together, coming together to discuss. Let's see how we can take this industry from where it is presently to where it ought to have been.
Where it ought to have been.
I'm not saying where it should be, where it ought to have
I took
been.
that phrase.
Yeah, where it ought to have been. That's presupposes that it's supposed to actually have been better than what we are actually seeing today. So that's just the nitty-gritty of it. And this is the man who dreamt that dream, and I'd like him to take it again from here.
Yes.
And I'm just privileged to be the chairman of the LOC, and we've been working round the clock, and I dare say that this is a revolution in the industry.
Okay, so Rookie, let me continue. So looking at the theme for this year's conference, how does it align with the present media trends in the country and globally?
All right, thank you very much. First off, I really want to say a very big thank you to the management and staff of Delta Broadcasting
Welcome.
Service. Thank you so much for the huge support. DBS Asaba, like I call you guys, are the host of this event, and you've really, really played your role as the host. So we're doing this for the very first time in our state, and you've embraced the idea, you've given us the necessary support. I mean, this is the second time I'm here.
Won't stop talking about
in the
it,
build
won't
up
stop
to
talking about it, yeah.
DBMC. So the theme for this conference was carefully chosen, you know. And when we thought of having a Delta Broadcast Media Conference, we thought about, okay, so what's going to be the theme of it? And then we said, of course, it has to be broadcast media, the pathway to unlocking Delta's possibilities. And you and I know that the broadcast industry is that avenue for information. You want to pass on information to the rest of the world, this is the perfect channel to do so. And the aim of this conference is to solidify, equip these broadcasters. When I mean broadcasters, I'm talking about all broadcast stations in Delta State, to be able to unlock the possibilities that are in Delta. People should not be thinking of wanting to leave Delta to elsewhere to make it. Why? Because we have enormous potentials in our state. And the broadcast media can unlock those potentials. It can open the eyes of investors to saying, hey, it's time to do business a different way. Hey, it's time to invest here. Hey, it's time to, look away from the norm. Pretty much is the mainstay of our nation's economy. So we believe that at the end of this conference, we would have broadcasters that are, blazing the trail in sports, blazing the trail in agriculture, blazing the trail in politics. Now I'm talking about stations that could just be known for sports in Delta State, known for politics in Delta State. It's very possible, and that's what we're trying to do. From here to the rest of the world, showcasing the beauties that are in Delta, showcasing the opportunities that are in Delta. So it's not going to be business as usual once this conference is done.
Okay, so I'm still to you, Rookie, sorry.
Yeah.
How inclusive is this conference when it comes to gender and regional representation? Because looking at what you said, I'm made to understand that this is an all-encompassing conference. So how inclusive is it when it comes to gender representation and, of course, the representation when it comes to regions?
Okay, we only have 2 genders in Nigeria, thank God.
There was 68 globally one time.
So male and female.
Yeah.
So, and yes, we have both male and female participation. Quite frankly, we have an LOC that is made up of male and female representation across board. Now, let's get this right. It's a Delta thing, right? And we have lots of stations in Delta. In fact, when we started out, we counted 12, both TV and radio. And they are all a part of what we're doing. There are the men in there, the women in there, they are very, very much involved. Now, you talked about regional. Yes, Delta is known to have, we have the Warri axis, we have the Asaba axis. Quite frankly, as of today, I looked at the registration portal, we are 367 who have registered to attend this conference. And going through all the channels where they came from, you see DBS Warri, you see Coco FM Warri, Crown FM Warri, Trend FM Asaba. So everybody, even to Eku, there's a radio station in Eku, there's a station in Ugeli, there's a station, in fact, everybody is involved, and everybody's going to be a part of it. So that solved the problem of regional, right?
And gender balance.
And oh my God.
Incidentally, when you even talk about gender, you find out if you go around all these stations, take DBS for example,
More women.
you seem to see more of women. So Perpetua,
I think
I don't know.
No,
where-
I just wanted to know if like both genders were adequately represented.
What I think
It's
is
even more tilted towards.
I think that the men will start having a little gathering and will start complaining about how we have been discriminated against and pushed aside.
Exactly.
I think we'll have a men group later on.
Over to you, Sam. I want to ask a
Okay.
question.
Yeah.
For this kind of conference to be organized, I'm sure that there are problems that the convener and of course you, the LOC chairman, must have looked at to say, okay, we want to be able to solve this problem. That's why we are bringing up this conference. So what are some of the problems or the challenges you people have looked at to solving with this conference being organized?
Okay, I think Ruki kind of touched on that a bit. We like we said, we want to take this industry from where it is to where it ought to have been. Understand? Where should it have been? For example, most of our stations are not on satellite TV. Most, if not all, are not on satellite TV, and that's a serious anomaly, if you ask me. I don't want to compare with Lagos. There are some other states, Delta, heads and shoulders are above them, especially in the West. Go to Ogun State, Osun State. Most of the radio and TV stations are on DSTV. So why can't we here in Delta actually do that? So that's one of those challenges we feel that, yes, we need to address. And that's why it's a stakeholders conference, not just broadcasters. When you say stakeholders, those who have one or two or something to do with the industry, the government. We have regulatory agencies like the NBC and the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, BORN. Of course, we also have the state government-owned broadcast stations, many of their stakeholders. The private sector, the civil society, the church, just name it, all these are stakeholders. And we are bringing all these people, together. Let us all, meet minds, exchange ideas. What are you seeing on TV that you do not like, for example? What are you seeing that you love so much you want us to improve on? Or what you're not liking, that what you want us to actually improve to serve you better? These are the things we actually want to achieve during this conference. These and so many other things that you can only find out if you come to attend that conference.
Let me just add a thing to one of the challenges that we have here in Delta State would be low patronage from the government.
Yeah.
This is one state that is so rich, and quite frankly, you invite public service holders to radio stations and TV stations, they won't show up, and they are not sorry for not showing up. I've never seen it anywhere. You would invite the public service holder, the one that is being paid with taxpayers' money. I'm not referring to the governor, or I'm talking about
Special advisors, commissioners.
just a few. I mean, we have a lot of them.
No, you're correct. Commissioners,
Just a few.
local government
I'm not saying
chairmen, all of them.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying all are guilty, but the majority are guilty of this. You invite them for local government chairman, you invite them for interview, and they won't come. And they will not tell you why. They won't tell you that they won't come. They are not apologetic, and it's sad because media is. They say the police is your friend. The media is your best friend.
The best one,
Because this is what is the vehicle in which you pass out information to the public. So how are you passing out your information? What I now observe that is going on in Delta is the content creation thingy. I don't have a problem with you having content creators around you. You see political appointees, they all have content creators going all around them. Now, neglecting mainstream media for content creators.
Okay, now the question is, to be fair, because everyone likes results.
True.
And I'll be the devil's advocate right now, because we all
Get on with
broadcasters. Aren't the content creators more effective in terms of getting mass appeal
No.
than actual
No,
broadcasters?
they're
I want you to
not.
break
No,
it
they're
down
not.
very well.
Let me explain.
They're not. They're not.
Samuel Fijoko is going to add a few to
Yes,
it as
yeah.
well. Look, the attention that they give to the content creators, if they give the broadcast media houses 70% of that same attention, even 50% will do better. Because the content creator, all he does is to shoot with his phone and maybe do a few edits and he post it on social media. That's all, right? But like I said, the mainstream media houses don't have that same attention, don't have that same access. You are Francis Ofulwe. I don't know how much access you have to government like these content creators. Some of these content creators fly with the governor on his PJ.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that is bad.
Even private jet, let
Pri-
that be clear. Let that be clear. Go ahead.
I'm not saying it's bad. Don't get me wrong. But then, charity begins at home. And give to Caesar what is Caesar. Give to content creator what is content creator.
Is this about
And
giving
give-
to us what is to us, or about results? That's what I'm after.
If you give us that sort of attention, we will produce mass results. Come on, this is mass media.
But the content creators per se, because I'm being the devil's advocate and I'm going to put on that
Okay.
red on
Yeah, go ahead.
very well and do this job. Those content creators, they reach a larger audience than broadcasters right here in Delta State.
No.
Facebook
1,000 times
alone
no.
can go
Wait.
globally.
How many,
1,000
how many,
times
how
more.
many persons in the village have access to
To
Facebook,
Facebook.
Instagram, and what have you? My grandmother in the village uses Nokia Touch,
She doesn't see Facebook and Instagram.
and these
or
are
TikTok.
actually the real voters. If you ask me.
Exactly.
And some of these government officials, they complain of even being underreported. And you are ignoring the mainstream media.
That would have gotten to those people.
Those people, the people you are actually leading. It is, Delta is the geographical entity. Fine if you tell the outside world what you're doing in Delta. There's nothing wrong with it. But you also have a duty to the people that you are leading. Deltans, first and foremost. And how do you reach the nooks and crannies of the state? It is the mainstream media.
Absolutely.
Because it just access. Now let's talk about this a lot because I'm going from devil's advocate to the angel's advocate now.
Okay.
This content creators taking the space of broadcasters in Delta State. How has this promoted sensationalism, promoted lack of professionalism, and pushed out wrong narratives rather than professional, well thought out information to the people? I'm going to start with. Let me go with Sammy. First, and
No,
we'll-
it has. You know, you've used the word, sensationalism.
I want that to be stressed. That's why I asked the question.
Sensationalism. That's what these content creators, that's majorly what they want to achieve. Sensationalism.
Set for a media revolution. Delta Broadcast Media Organization, in conjunction with the Delta State Ministry of Information, presents Delta Broadcast Media Conference 2025. Theme: Broadcast Media, the pathway to unlocking Delta's possibilities. Date: 16th of May 2025. Venue: Unity Hall, Government House, Asaba. Time: 10 a.m. Guest speakers: Rufai Oseni, Malpe Ogun, Yusuf, Samuel Fejoku, Peter Moche. There'll be high-level panel discussions with seasoned experts in the broadcast media industry. Special guest of honor, His Excellency, Right Honorable Sheriff Oborewori, Governor of Delta State. Guest of honor, Charles Anyagu, Commissioner for Works, Rural Roads and Public Information, Delta State. Convener, Ruki Onoro. For inquiries, call 0706-083-8949 or 0706-701-8400. Delta Broadcast Media Conference 2025, powered by Delta State Government and Chrysler Development Limited. Supported by DBS, NTA, Trend FM, Rise FM, Mega FM, Crown and Coco FM, Eku FM, Quest FM and TV, Sleek FM, Bridge Radio, NMDPRA, Olili Food, and Dominion Pearl Home.
Single broadcast station in Delta State supports the idea of the Delta Broadcast Media Conference. And just before we went on that little break, we're talking about how relevant it is for professionals to be the one in charge of discharging information and promoting the policies and programs of the government. We're not even talking about the private sector yet. And Sammy Fijoko was doing analysis of how the mainstream media gets to the people without being sensational, unprofessional, or passing the wrong narrative to the people. Continue with that thought, sir.
Yeah, so that's why you see that most of the things we see churned out on the social media, at the end of the day, you see some persons coming to either refute or to say that that's not the true representation, we're quoted out of context and all that. That's what these content creators actually do. Maybe they just hear from someone, Sammy has married a fourth wife. Without going to Sammy to go and find out
What happened?
the truth, they just, fly there. The mainstream media will not do that. They would look for that guy
And balance the story.
and balance the story.
Rookie, get into the picture.
All right, so let's get something straight. Even the broadcast media houses, they are content creators, right? However, there's the handpicking of one or two videographers over the guys who are the professionals.
Exactly.
And that's where I have a problem. And that's where I think there's a bit of an injustice, right? As far as the entire broadcast media industry is concerned, So, just like Sammy said, this is for Delta. Governance is for the people of Delta and, of course, by extension, Nigeria, right? So Deltans should be first beneficiaries of the information, the strides of government, and not outsiders. We have stations all around Delta State, from nooks and crannies of Delta State. I mean, there's a station somewhere. I just told you about this. I never knew there was a station in Eku until I started this campaign.
Yeah.
My grandma is from Eku. You know, I never knew. So we could give these stations, these media outfits that are scattered around the state, better encouragement, better support for better reportage.
Beneficial to even the government.
Of
than
course.
So-called media houses.
Of course,
That's right.
of course.
Yes,
It is.
That's quite strong.
So
Well,
back to the conference. Sorry,
Yes.
I want to ask for those who cannot make it, or for those who will not be able to come due to one unforeseen circumstance or the other. Now, will provisions be made for them to key into that conference virtually?
Okay, let me just give a quick response to that. Try to be there. That's the first
I'm not
advice.
talking about me because
Yeah,
I know that I will try to be
I'm
there.
talking to
Exactly.
to
Those who might not.
who might not.
For one reason or the other.
Exactly, most especially health. Let me
Okay,
let me
okay.
cascade
All
it
right,
down. Most
all right.
especially health right now.
I will still answer your question. So
Okay.
first off is strive to be at this conference because it will be worth your time. That's the truth. And then secondly, yeah, we're looking at trying to see how we can make some bit of an arrangement for those who would connect virtually. But we are looking at those who would be there physically. They are the first guys that we're preparing for. And we'll now see how we get to the other guys who perhaps not be able to make it. And maybe they can even connect because we're going to put some of these information on social media. They can connect to YouTube and get to watch the entire conference once we're done.
okay, thank you so
And
much.
there's going to be a communique issue. Like
Yes,
that.
at the end of it too.
Yeah.
So
This is not the first time I've been conversing with Rookie right here on Breakfast Show, Morning Right Precisely. And then Rookie had a wish last time. So I'm going to toss that wish to you, Sam Fujo, because you're closer to that particular area.
Okay.
He had a wish on our last conversation right here.
Okay.
Rookie said, I wish the governor would be there.
Okay.
Now, you are a member of the state executive. You are a member of the government, part of that system.
Okay.
Would we have the governor there? And if we don't have him there, would we have a solid representative, just like we saw during May 1 at the cenotaph?
Yeah.
I want to have it from you.
No, it's very likely that the governor will be there. The only thing, state matters. That's number one. If maybe a day two and he has to be summoned, or something actually takes him out of the state. But even at that, if he doesn't make it in person, he will send someone. We believe that the Commissioner for Information will also be there,
It must
and
be there.
and some other members of the State Executive Council.
even the Speaker of the Delta
You know,
State House of
yeah,
Assembly.
he's going to be there.
So legislations might be made.
So
Who
government
knows?
will be fully represented.
Who knows? Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
I want to say men of the press, but this is not just about press, men of the broadcast world.
Uh-huh.
And it's not just about presenters or what people call other personalities. It's about everyone who makes broadcasting work in Delta State. I'm talking about the drivers, enough to call themselves pilots. The pilots, as they call themselves. The cameramen or some camera women.
Yeah,
Because that's a
definitely.
camera woman
Yeah.
right
Yeah,
here.
right here.
Producers,
Yeah.
we have presentation directors,
That's right.
makeup
Everybody.
artists, studio managers,
Exactly.
janitors, means cleaners. If you're mopping the
Everybody.
ground, come there
Everybody.
and be part of that conference. Let's
And
come
register
together.
to
Well,
attend.
It was registered to attend.
Register.
Let's hear it again. I know the
Yeah.
advertisement is on, but
The,
let's
the
say it
link
again.
the link has been on all
Yeah.
your platforms.
Okay.
TAO, OAP's platform has been there, and there are those who've been reaching us personally too. Been sharing the
link.
portal.
You can also just go to Facebook, search for Rookie Onoro or
That's right.
Samuel Fejoku.
That's right.
Chat them, send them a DM. They don't discard people. They listen to people.
That's right.
They'll hear you out. They'll talk to you and let you know how you can be part of the conference. Be part of the conference if you are in a broadcasting station, even if you're an admin staff who gives us queries every now and then. Be part of that conference. But that's how we wrap it up on Thursday's morning, right? I believe so. We wrap it up with broadcasters, and that makes it a very special Thursday.
right.
So from Perpetua, wonderful sign off from you.
Okay, today being the 8th day in the month of May 2025 is the World Red Cross and World Red Crescent Day with the theme on the side of humanity. I want us to understand that even in the most difficult moments, we should continue to be on the side of humanity. In your little corner, in your little efforts, do do your best to alleviate human suffering. You mustn't be a millionaire or a billionaire. A listening ear will do. Offering psychosocial support will do. The list is endless. Happy World Red Cross and World and Red Crescent Day.
All right, you heard the lady. I'll take everything she said and put them on marble. But from the gentleman right here, I say go and get ready because we have 8 days to go.
8 days to go.
8 days to go. So be at
1 week from tomorrow.
1 week from tomorrow. So be at the Unity Hall, Government House, Asaba.
Yeah.
1 week from tomorrow and be part of the Delta Broadcast Media Conference.
10 a.m.
10 a.m. precisely.
10 a.m.
You know?
So that everything would change. Everything Perpetual said would be well represented there because broadcasters are the one who carry the torch and move all positive.
And we are timekeepers, remember?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we're starting 10.
10 for 10.
10 for 10.
You heard my boss. So when we're done with the program, we'll talk more about work. But for now, my name is Francis Ofulue. Good morning and goodbye from Morning Light.
For a media revolution, Delta Broadcast Media Organization, in conjunction with the Delta State Ministry of Information, presents Delta Broadcast Media Conference 2025. Theme, Broadcast Media, the pathway to unlocking Delta's possibilities. Date, 16th of May 2025. Venue, Unity Hall, Government House, Asaba. Time, 10 a.m. Guest speakers, Rufai Oseni, Maokbe Ogun, Yusuf, Samuel Fejoku, Peter Moche. There'll be high-level panel discussions with seasoned experts in the broadcast media industry. Special guest of honor, His Excellency, Right Honorable Sheriff Oborewori, Governor of Delta State. Guest of honor, Charles Anyabu, Commissioner for Works, Rural Roads and Public Information, Delta State. Convener, Ruki Onoro. For inquiries, call 0706-083-8949 or 0706-701-8400. Delta Broadcast Media Conference 2025, powered by Delta State Government and Chrysler Development Limited. Supported by DBS, NTA, Trend FM, Rise FM, Mega FM, Crown and Coco FM, Eku FM, Quest FM and TV, Sleek FM, Bridge Radio, NMDPRA, Olili Food and Dominion Pearl Home.